Hey guys, my name is Francisco Hernandez, and today's video is actually a part 2 from another building the shot video that I made, going over how I created this shot on the screen here of Michaela from a recent workshop that I did over in York, Pennsylvania. I started to separate my videos, my building the shot videos, into two parts, going over how I created that shot and then how I edited the shot, because I didn't want to have one very long video going over both in a video. So in case you guys are interested in how I created the shot without any editing, I have that. And then also this video is going to go over how I edited that shot. So in case you're interested in one or the other, there's options now. I actually took two other photos that I really liked at that workshop. So in case you're interested in knowing how I created these two images on the screen right here, I do have two other videos going over how I created those and the editing as well. And I'll leave links to all those different videos in the description area below. Before I continue though, I do want to let you know that this video is actually sponsored by Adorama. Adorama is an industry leading retailer that has been serving photography, videography, and audio customers for almost 50 years now. Their motto is everyone is a creator, and they do their best to unleash that creator within us all by providing us with the tools and expertise necessary to get the job done. I personally shop at Adorama for both the great deals on products I use and recommend, but also the great customer service on those products as well. If you find yourself interested in any product that I talk about in today's video, feel free to use the links that are in the description area below, and be sure to use those links if you decide to order. On the screen right now is the Lightroom edited version of this shot. So I do want to show you guys the before I continue and break down how it was created. So here is the before, which is very, very different, I think, in terms of different exposure adjustments. I want to show you guys how I came from this point to this one right here. And it actually wasn't anything too crazy. I usually do a lot more different adjustments in my Lightroom edits, but for this photo, it was a matter of just raising the exposure. I didn't even adjust the temperature or the tint, but I did raise the exposure to 0.25. And then also all the different adjustments that you're seeing on the screen, reduce the highlights, increase the crap out of the shadows, reduce the whites, and reduce the blacks as well. The main reason why I increased the shadows so much for this shot is because I felt like the background behind her, it was very, very dark. So you can see that when I reduce it, you can see it's very dark, and I wanted to see all that detail with the smoke. So I increased the shadows to 100, which is something I think I've never done before in a photo. So this is a first. I also, of course, increased the saturation of the image on the very bottom in the calibration section, the blue primary saturation slider. I increased it to 80, and that always makes the oranges and blues too strong. Obviously not a lot of blues in this photo, but there are oranges. So I did have to reduce the saturation, which I did over here, to -12. I didn't do anything in the hue or the luminance, which is something that I usually, again, do to my photos, but I didn't do it in this photo. In addition to reducing the saturation of the orange, I also increased the sharpness to 60. And then the only other thing I did to this photo in Lightroom was two things with the photo in terms of the eyes and in the flame. So when it comes to the flame, or actually the eyes, I'm gonna zoom in. This was taken with the Sony A7RV. That's why you can see so much detail with this shot. But I did increase the eyes a bit, the exposure, a little bit of contrast, shadows, and reduce the blacks, and increase the saturation. So I'm gonna show you the before and then the after of that effect. Then I'm gonna zoom out and show you that the flame was also affected in terms of my own adjustments. So I reduced the highlight and added saturation. So you can see that right here, -40 highlight, and then increase the saturation to 25. And that's everything that I did to this photo. And I applied the same adjustments to the behind the scenes, so you guys can see exactly how that looks like in this photo here. And now I'll show you guys what I did in Photoshop. The very first thing that I did in Photoshop was, even though I did take a good shot with the flame here, I felt like the gap was just bugging me too much. So I wanted to see if I can bridge the gap somehow. The next shot that I took after this photo, I did have a little bit more flame in this area here. So I did add that to this photo and did bridge the gap a little bit. But then I decided, you know what? The generative fill tool in Photoshop has done great so far from this past year that I've used it. So let me see what it can do for this photo. In this next layer, you can see that I did add a little bit more flame from here, from there to there where the shoulder is. And then the next layer, I added more flame, and I think it created a good result, so I kept it. I also used the AI tool generative fill for this corner here because I felt like it was too dark, so I wanted to fill it in with some smoke. And it did a great job of adding some smoke that was pretty much exactly how the existing smoke in the shot was. So that's what I did with this next layer. The very next layer was a huge time-consuming layer, and that's because I removed so many distractions and did the tiniest of liquify as well. So you're gonna see that right now. So this is the before, this is the after. Removed a lot of stray hairs and also removed a lot of wrinkles in this layer. Okay, so my bad, I didn't do liquify in the last distractions layer, but I did do it in this next one. So here's the before and here's the after. I did have one last wrinkle here that I wanted to remove, and that's gonna be the next layer. That's called the last wrinkle. Then I did a round of frequency separation to remove some of the wrinkles wrinkles on the dress, smooth the skin, and I think that's it for that layer. Then I did a little bit of dodge and burn, which you can see before and after. And I always feel like I want to be too lazy to do dodge and burn, but then when I do it, I feel like, you know, I'm glad that I did that. So if you're in the same boat, just take 10 minutes to do a little bit of dodge and burn, and I'm pretty sure it'll be worth it. I'm gonna zoom in on the eyes so you guys can see that I did raise the brightness of the eyes just a little bit. So here's the after, before, after. This last layer called last, I actually removed using the AI tool generative fill. On the hands, there was some bubbles because the way that you get the flame, that from my understanding is that you use bubbles to create the flame. Tim knows more about this process, so in case you're interested in knowing more about it, I'll, you know, direct you guys to Tim by, you know, his username on the bottom of the screen. But I just felt like the bubbles were just too visible, so I wanted to remove them, and that's exactly what I did with this layer here. And then the very final thing that I did was change the colors a little bit because I felt like the reds were nice in this shot here as they are right now on the screen, but I felt like they could be a little bit more interesting, so I got a selective color adjustment layer, and then I changed the colors to like this point. I'm curious if you guys prefer the before of the reds or the after reds. Let me know in the comments below because I'm still kind of torn, but I did ultimately end up on like maybe 60%, I believe, so I'm gonna change it to 60%, and that was what you saw at the beginning of the video, 60%. That's pretty much everything that I did to this photo in terms of editing, in terms of Lightroom and Photoshop. I really hope you guys enjoyed it and hope it was educational to you. And if you guys have any other questions about anything that I did in terms of editing or anything else, let me know in the comments below and I'll reply as soon as possible. I want to say one last thanks to A7RV for sponsoring this video, because when they do that, it allows me to keep making free content for you guys, so definitely check them out. Take care guys, and I'll see you in the very next video.